So Natalie White, the founder and CEO of Moolah Kicks, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
This is awesome because we first connected 2021.
Yep.
And everything was just getting started for you guys.
Yep.
Dick's Sporting Goods, the partnership, which we'll get into later, was just on the horizon. But big news for you right now with two new models of shoes. Tell me about that.
It's been incredible. So this past season, we're excited to launch a shoe now for every single position. So not only do we have all of our sneakers fit specifically for female ballers, but we actually are catering to different positions with our triple-double model for bigs and our Neovolt low for guards. And then we have our Neovolt mid that's kind of an all-encompassing shoe. And finally, we have a full line of kids with our press break model.
There's so much to dive into there because all of that is incredible. And the biggest point is they're all made for women.
Yep.
And this is kind of like the origin of Moolah. But first I want to talk about these different models because they're made for the athletes. How did you develop them for the guards versus the forwards and bigs?
I think what you see in the products that we have really show our process because we invite the women's basketball, girls, high school, college, professional athletes into every single step of our design and our development process. So when we say, okay, it's made for bigs, what does that mean? That means we went out and we talked to centers and forwards and said, where are your shoes falling short? What attributes are most important to let you perform your best on court? We then took that, matched it, and worked through the design process to say what materials, what design attributes will help bring that to life on court, sampled, wear tested with them, and eventually produced and became shelf ready.
So what were the things that they were looking for? What were their shoes currently not doing for them?
So our triple-double model for bigs is much more stable and durable than our quick guard model, right? And that's because, picture it, you're big, coming down with a strong rebound. You want shoes that are gonna have a lot of cushion and where your foot can be really locked in from side to side so that when you come down, you have that stability and confidence, right? Going up against so many people and coming down. And then on the guard shoe, you want a quick first step. You want to be fast, nimble, and you want your shoes to essentially allow you to do that. So we have a low profile. The compound we use in our midsoles are different, right? The one for the bigs emphasizes cushioning. The one for and softer. The one for the guards emphasizes a quick first step, and it's going to be a little bit harder. So it's details like that that play into, hey, how are we best elevating the game of every girl on the court?
I love that. And I think, let's rewind here and kind of fill people in if they're not familiar with Moolah Kicks.
Absolutely.
Why you started this in the first place, because everything you just said is exactly what you wanted to do when we spoke 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And so I started Moolah to give people, everyone context who doesn't have it, because I grew up playing basketball like so many other female basketball players and was always shopping in the men's or the children's section for my shoes, where I was wearing sneakers labeled unisex that weren't really for me. They're not for us as women's basketball players. And so when I got to college, I went to Boston College right here, and I remember seeing an ad where there were 4 WNBA players holding out and promoting sneakers named after someone else. And I think seeing that ad, it really hit me, what is the message here? The message is that you can be the absolute best at this sport, but you will still be wearing and promoting sneakers named for someone else. And so when I saw that, I dug into the issue and saw not only is there this social implication, but there's a performance one that we dove in and started talking about as well, because women's feet, the female foot form differs from the male foot form in key areas. And so when we as women's basketball players are wearing men's, children's, unisex sneakers, we're actually more at risk for the knee, ankle, and leg injuries that are so common in women's basketball. Not only that, but when you start wearing shoes fit for you, and what we found with Moolah Kicks is that when they're in shoes biomechanically fit for the female foot form, things like breaking your shoes in goes away. The toes hitting the tops of your sneakers, that goes away.
Yeah.
The bottoms of your feet burning, taking off your shoes after and saying, oh my gosh, my feet were so hot, the sweet relief after the game.
Yeah.
That all goes away, and things that we just accept as women's basketball players. And so
Because that's normal.
That's normal.
Everyone on the team is
That's
feeling
normal.
the same thing.
Exactly.
So I can't be,
no.
this
yeah.
must be the way it is.
Yeah, and in actuality, we just haven't had equipment that's fit for us. And so what Moolah is doing, it's not only about the shoes and elevating your performance on court, which is heightened now with the shoe for every position, but the whole brand is elevating the sport of women's basketball, because all we care about is celebrating the women's basketball community, celebrating the women's game for what we know it is, the talent, the hype, and everything that this game stands for.
And they also look really cool. I just have to say that. I mean, obviously, like, function's like really important too, but that's part of the game too.
Yeah.
And something there I think is really unique is that shoes are sports. Like, it's a performance.
Yeah.
It's equipment. It's performance equipment, right? Where I think it doesn't always feel like that. It feels like part of the outfit.
Yeah, I think that's a fundamentally different way that we think about shoes. And I think it's because when you picture going into a retail store, a lot of times you see, okay, here's all the apparel, here's all the shoes, and the names, the naming conventions, women's sections, men's section doesn't really matter. And when you realize that your shoes actually aren't just expression and aesthetics, they have a real performance and equipment purpose. I think that's kind of been pushed under the rug, maybe in part because this is the first time we really have equipment fit for us.
Absolutely. And we see the injury in in female sports, but in women's basketball specifically, how much, I mean, we're looking at Paige Beckers coming back this year, and we haven't had a Paige Beckers for the last couple seasons because of injury. And so what it can do for an athlete to have something that actually fits them is remarkable. And I kind of teased it at the beginning. You said you go into these retail stores. Dick's Sporting Goods, when we first spoke, it was like, we're still in the talks. And now, did I read that you're in over 450 stores?
450. It's unbelievable.
How did that happen?
I mean, I don't think anyone could ask for a better partner. Their commitment to providing the most premium equipment for all of their athletes is unbelievable. And the team at Dick's Sporting Goods has been absolutely nothing but excited about this product and what we're building in women's basketball. So it's been incredible.
I loved walking in the first time I went into a Dick's Sporting Goods once you guys had your shoes there. And I walked in and I was just like, oh my God, this is front and center, like front and center for young girls to go in. Because we've seen the game of women's basketball, girls basketball, rise so much in the past few years. Deservedly so. I mean, the talent's there. The talent has always been there, but the talent is there. The audience is there. There's media attention there. And of course, we have room to grow.
Yeah.
But what I love that you're doing is that now girls can see it. If you can see it, you can be it. But you're making it better for girls right now with this kids line.
Yeah.
Why was it important for you to translate it down to the younger generation?
One, it's about career longevity and getting girls in shoes that fit their feet earlier. So it's your first season in elementary school and you're going to pick out your pair for the first time. We want them to know from the onset that there is a brand who's going to be there for them for their entire career. Not only that, but on a performance side, now they're starting their career in shoes that are actually going to support their foot shape, meaning hopefully they can stay healthy for as long as possible against how physically demanding the game can be.
Absolutely. And so they have people to look up to with Moolah. The way that you guys have marketed and branded yourselves is remarkable. But you have women like Courtney Williams, you have women like Destiny Henderson. Why was it important to get those women in Moolah Kicks?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's always important that we get the top talent who really embody the brand. And everything that those athletes stand for, the way they play their game, all of it is so Moolah. It made perfect sense to partner with them, and we've been really, really happy throughout the W season and now into the Euro season.
And so tell me, so those are WNBA players.
Yep.
Henny said that this was the best fitting shoes she's ever worn.
She's not alone. That's all I'll say. She's not alone.
I love that. And then we look down, but we look kind of back at the college players, and NIL is now an opportunity.
Huge.
How does NIL, name, image, likeness, change the game for female athletes and specifically for women's basketball players?
Oh my gosh, NIL is unbelievable. We could not be more excited about it because, first of all, it allows college players to really take advantage of the platform that they have. And that's so big because part of what was in the DNA of Moolah when I first started it was about feeling like we were shouting for more attention, but we know what this game is. We know people are interested. We know what we're offering, and we know there's a huge fan base behind it. And so now with NIL, female basketball players, female athletes, they don't really need to ask for that anymore. Rather, their platforms, their profiles show it. I mean, look, women's basketball was the 3rd highest revenue generator of any sport last year for NIL. That speaks volumes about how much we have to offer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And something that you said there is that when you started this, part of kind of like the ethos, right, was shouting for more. We need more. And I know that you were so steadfast in this. You believed so firmly in what you could do.
Yeah.
And I know that it wasn't necessarily the easiest journey at the beginning. And looking now, someone could look at you and be like, Natalie, this was like obviously a great idea. How did you stay so committed when people were turning you away at the beginning?
Oh my gosh. I think that's a hard one, but I feel like knowing the greater goal is something that just keeps you going. There's no stopping women's basketball. And so I felt like when people didn't know or what we were sharing didn't resonate, that sometimes gave me even more confidence because I said, that's the problem. Right?
You are the problem.
Yeah, exactly. The fact that you feel XYZ about what Moolah, what women's basketball is doing, that only makes the love deeper for us within the women's basketball community. It's the same as NIL. It's us taking ownership and growth into our own hands. When you ask out and shout for growth or for attention, you're not necessarily the one that benefits from it. But when you take that ownership and you own your own platform, and women's basketball owns the brand Moolah, right? That's all we do. That's the only party we serve. Then women's basketball is the one to benefit from it, not necessarily those people who didn't believe in it early on.
Which I love, and I think it's so important to have those moments, not in the moment, of course, but to have the moments and knowing that what you're doing is helping the greater good, right? Is helping this community. So what was the response from the women's basketball community when you presented Moolah to them and gave them what they needed?
Well, first is the Henny comment, right?
Yeah.
So first we have basketball players putting them on and saying, oh my gosh, I understand what you mean that they're fit for female ballers. Because I think it isn't always intuitive, like because of what you were saying, is it apparel, is footwear equipment, right? So then when they put them on and they play for the first time, it is this like shattering experience. Yeah. Oh my God, this is amazing. I love them. Yeah. We get a ton of comments like that, but we get a lot of deeper ones too, where people are really excited about the future and the vision that we have for women's basketball. And I think that's a huge part of what has continued to fuel this movement.
I think that's so important because I think knowing that you have a support system behind you, I mean, as an athlete, you know the importance of a team.
Absolutely.
And your team feels to me like it's the women's basketball community at all levels. It's the WNBA, it's the college players, high schoolers, and then like the kids picking up the ball for the first time.
And that's what the brand is doing, right? It's not just about, Moolah is about all of women's basketball. And the WNBA wouldn't be what it is without college, and college wouldn't be what it is without high school. And then it works in every direction. We have a huge opportunity too to put our hands down and say, hey, this is how you get to college. You know, just continue to create community and momentum and growth of the brand, but of the sport and what we're going to be.
Which is amazing. And so I know that you played club at BC. You managed the team there.
Absolutely.
And you're still playing.
Yep. I play in New York, played all of those street leagues over there. We sponsored No Limit this summer, and so played in Watson and Dykeman and some of those women's semi-pro leagues.
Which I think is like so cool because it doesn't, I mean, for women often you look and you're like, okay, well the possibility of playing at a professional level is limited.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that your career in the sport has to end at college or in life. Like you can continue to play like you are.
Oh, it's amazing. There is nothing that's better than women's street ball in New York. I'm not biased at all, but there's nothing better.
And that's like so important though, that you can have this career and the hobby or whatever it is, this passion continued in life, like a lifelong athlete, which is so crucial. So of course you're doing that, but you're also spending a lot of time working on
just a little.
What have you learned as an entrepreneur in the last few years?
My line, I think, has been the same since I started. There's really two, and the first is always be ready. I think that goes so far. You need to be ready. Whether you're walking down the street and you run into someone, you need to be ready if it's midnight and you know your team overseas wants to have a call on a problem. You need to be ready on all aspects of your business and almost ready to pitch it to anyone at any time. So that's step one. And the second lesson I think I've really learned was there's no free lunch. And that is like the most old school saying, but I really believe it because that means if you want to always be ready, you're paying for it somehow. That's not free. You know, you're working for it. If you want to do X, it's going to take Y to get there, whether you're paying in time, money, sacrifice. Basically, no free lunch is another way to say everything is earned, and I really believe that.
Wow. And that's just a few years in. You're getting the lessons quick. And as an athlete, we know that the importance of growth mindset. That's how every athlete improves. That's how every athlete gets to the next level, whatever that is. And that often can come from within, right? Being open to feedback, open to these other things. But it also requires a team of people around you that are supportive and honest. So if you look around, who's on your team?
Oh my gosh. So we have a full team in New York. Some of the absolute best people that I've ever been able to say I can work with. It's really incredible. And then we have a really great development team overseas who's working tirelessly on the product. A lot of designers here in Boston. And of course, all of our partners and our retail partner, Dick's Sporting Goods. We couldn't do it without the investors, the advisors, the people that chip into this brand and go above and beyond, whether they're at Moolah full-time or in any capacity. They are all part of the Moolah family, and they've made this brand what it is today.
Who do you lean on most, do you think?
Oh my gosh. I think I lean on everyone in such a different capacity. Yeah, like there is so much that's been needed to bring this brand to where it is today. And I can honestly say it wouldn't be possible without, it takes a village. It would not be possible without the dozens, if not close to 100 people who contribute to the brand in some way. And you lean on everyone for what their area of expertise is.
You build a team of people that complement each other. I love that.
Absolutely.
And so if we were sitting down like we were 2 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago, whatever it was, right? What would you say to that, Natalie, now, knowing what you know?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think it's always good to not necessarily know what's coming because it doesn't make you, in some sense, If you know what's coming, you can get nervous and scared versus saying, here's what's happening and I'm ready to act. But I think if I had talked to myself 2 years ago, I would probably give myself a little bit of encouragement because there are times, especially in those early days, and we're still in the early days is how I feel and how I see, but there's a lot of times where it feels like what you were saying. You know, there's people saying no, there's a lot of people doubting you, you're not seeing the results you want, you're seeing problems and not necessarily seeing where it's going. And I think that encouragement would have probably made me feel a lot better.
I love that. And so you talk about you're in the early years
Infancy.
of it. What is the future of Moolah Kicks? I mean, clothes, apparel?
We're in apparel. We're in performance apparel.
Well, and so talk about that because again, it is centered on the biomechanics of women.
Everything we do, absolutely everything we do is female fit. And we have a full line of performance apparel designed right here by Elizabeth McGarry here in Boston. And we have mesh sets. We have a full warm-up set that just dropped online if people want to check it out. And then we have a full compression set, which is the first of its kind pieces, which have padded sides on the rib cage, on the hips, and on the tailbone to protect players when they play 3-4 games a day at these AAU tournaments when they're taking hit after hit, going up for a layup, getting hit in the rib cage. So it gives you that extra layer of protection to finish at the basket. And we are the first brand to come out with a product like that for women. Previously, we had girls wearing football undershirts that we saw at AAU tournaments, and we said, what do you want from this brand? And they said, this doesn't fit me correctly, and you'd see it's stretched in the wrong places and it looks uncomfortable. And so I said, absolutely, let's get on it. 12 months later, here we are.
That's incredible. So it's really the women's basketball community is building this.
Of course, yeah.
That's awesome. Did you ever think apparel was in the cards for you?
I don't know what's not in the cards. That's what I'd say.
That's the answer. Always be ready.
Yes. I don't know what's not. I don't know what's not in the cards. So we're really excited about continuing to grow this brand at this pace.
So I'm going to ask you a question here, and this is when people think about women's basketball shoes, people may have looked and been like, well, Cheryl Swoops had one, and Candace Parker, DT, Nikki McCrae, they all had a shoe, and they did, but it was it was fit to a men's foot with their name. Yeah. Would Moolah Kicks ever do a signature athlete shoe with a WNBA player?
Oh, we're absolutely thinking of everything. So I can't give you anyone in particular, but I can say that nothing's off limits.
I love that. Because how cool is it for then a little girl to say, I can have a shoe fit for women with my name on it? Yeah.
Where they get all those things, right? They don't have to break them in. They don't have to have bruises on their toes. Where they, not only do they know that, but they're going to feel that every day on the court.
I love that I think it was Courtney who said that during AU, Athletes Unlimited, she was able to wear a different shoe to match her uniform because they change teams every week. Yeah. And so sometimes they're blue, sometimes they're purple. And she was like, I finally have a shoe. Yeah. That I can wear that matches my outfit.
And we had a PE for both Courtney and Henny this year. So both of them had player exclusives. Yeah, over the summer.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay. So you guys are well ahead of.
Yeah, and they got to design it all themselves. So both Courtney and Henny got on the phone with our designer. He's here in Boston, John Morris, and they said, here's what I want in a shoe. Here's my dream shoe. And we made it for them.
That's incredible. Yeah. So we're kind of running out of time here, but I want to ask you two more things. Okay. When you were a little girl. Yep. And how would your sports experience have been different had Moolah existed? Knowing your personality and the things that light you up now.
I think I would probably just feel a lot more seen and understood. I think a lot of times growing up, you might not feel in the moment what it feels like to not have gear for you, but I remember those I remember when they played some of the NCAA women's championships on TV, like they played on a streaming station. Baylor, it was the time of Baylor and UConn. And they'd play one women's basketball game, a couple a year that I remember.
Yeah.
And that was like a special moment. You know, I was like, oh my God, like women's basketball is going to be on. We have to put it on.
Yep.
And in those moments is when I felt really like inspired.
Yeah.
And connected to the game. And I think that when I was growing up, a lot of the year I didn't feel as connected. I'd feel like maybe we get the worst practice times or the worst, you know, we get one ref and the guys get two, whatever it is, but there seems to be growing up a big comparison between girls and boys, and that's what I did, at least when I grew up, I think wrongly so. And I felt like a lot of times overlooked, or like my game wasn't as respected. And I think having a brand like Moolah, if I was able to go into the store and see that actually there's not just a shoe that's built for me and fit for me, but there's an entire brand, not built by anyone, but built by female basketball players like myself, like who I want to be. I think that I would feel really seen and excited and celebrated, you know, and wanting to be a part of that the same way I want to be a part and watch when that national championship game is on.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, talking about college basketball, any favorites so far? I know it's still early.
Oh my gosh.
We're still really, really early.
I have to say, just to see the good games, you hate to see some top teams go down, but you love to see the competition that's happening and the excitement and, you know, the back and forth. I think it's really, really awesome for the sport.
Yeah. Okay. So you're gonna spread your love to all of them.
Absolutely.
All right. Final question I ask everyone: on your tough days in business and life, what's your mantra?
This day can either be +1 or -1. No, it's an interesting way to think about it. But if you take a break, you see all these, I don't know, I feel like I see all these motivational statements that say, you know, if you had 10 cents leave your pocket, would it ruin your whole day? But you let 10 minutes ruin your whole, I don't know, they have some sayings like that. And I think you can go into every day, and when you're having a hard day, you can say, hey, when I end this day, do I want it to be above baseline or below? Let me do whatever I can to make this a good day. You know, you can only control your effort. You really can't control what happens to you. But I absolutely try every day to put 110% in and to make it a better day than what the baseline is or yesterday.
That's like spoken like a true athlete. I feel like that's like exactly, because you can't control the outcome, right? Like you can play the best game of your life and still not come up with the win.
Yeah.
However, you just played the best game of your life.
And you have to, right? You have to put 100% in, because otherwise, I don't know, maybe it is an athlete mentality, but you have to put 100% in, or else you kind of come out, you go to bed, put your head down at night, and you don't feel like you're all into it. So how could you get as much as you can out of it? Yeah.
How do you fall asleep? Because you're going through everything that you could have done. That's awesome. All right, so where can people follow along with you? Where can they follow along with Moolah Kicks?
Yes.
We're gonna let you pimp yourself out here.
Do it. Okay, check us out, Moolah Kicks at Dick's Sporting Goods, moolahkicks.com, and Moolah Kicks on all social media platforms.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for coming in, and we'll have to have you back on when.
Thank you, Hannah.
In 2 years. We'll just keep doing this every 2 years.
Let's do it. Awesome. Thank you.